Isn't this beautiful? I really love this little pattern with the little elephants. I like elephants. And again, we're picking up the pinks, and the person who wanted this quilt done really wanted lots and lots of pinks in it. And this was my way of sneaking in a little bit of other colors into the quilt, getting away from the pinks. I used the brown. It's going to be a border on it. You'll see when it gets done. And I snuck in a little bit of this aqua blue in, and well, anyway, we'll get to that after. So this border, we need 1.5 inch strips. Okay, so same deal. I'm going to square off the material. I know that the material's folded right because I folded it ahead, so I know that this is even. And look at that. We got a little bit here, but we got, wow, close to almost 1/2 inch down here. So I make sure that this is nice and straight up here. Just give it another shot. Always measure twice, cut once. That's what carpenters say, and I think that works good for quilters too. Put down my weight. Re-engage my blade. Always when you put your cutting blade away, disengage it. Re-engage it when you're about to cut. And lock it. Don't hold your blade out. Lock your blade. If you try to hold your blade out, it's liable to pop back in on you. And not only could you get hurt, but you're going to have a lousy cut. Now that you put your blade down, disengage it so you don't accidentally touch it and cut yourself and hurt yourself, which would be bad enough, but you might even bleed all over your fabric, which would be awful. You don't want to bleed on your fabric because you probably won't get the blood out and you'll ruin your fabric. Then you'll have to go shopping for more fabric. And nobody wants to ruin their fabric. So what did I say the pattern called for? It wants 4 strips at 1.5 inches. So we have 1.5 inches and 1.5 and 4 strips. Now some people would actually fan the material, and you could fan the material if you want to fold it in half and then cut 2 strips at a time. But since we're not doing a big quilt and it's not many strips, it's just as easy to do it this way. And you know, it's some people are very fast cutters. I tend to take my time and cut because, like I said, measure twice, cut once. And one thing to be said about this pattern, and this is an interesting thing to note, this pattern just makes the 1.5 inches. If this had to be very much smaller, it really wouldn't be a very good pattern to use for this quilt. When you're picking out a quilt pattern, a fabric for a quilt, keep in mind that the print on the fabric, it has to fit the piece that you're going to use it on. And that's an important thing, because if these elephants were huge, really, really huge, I might only have a foot in here, or a piece of a trunk, or an ear, and nobody would know what they were. So you'd say to yourself, what is that in that bar? You would never know. You want to make sure that when you pick out fabric, and we'll talk about this sometime, maybe I'll even take you shopping. When you pick out fabric, you want to make sure that what you're looking at fits in the strip or the box or the triangle that you're making. Because you could have the most beautiful print in the world. It could be this beautiful big flower, and you really love it and you want to make it your focus print. But if you're making squares that are, or hexagons that are only 1 inch big, and your focus piece is 4 inches big, you're only going to get 1/4 of that in each of your little hexagons. Actually, even a little bit less in a hexagon. And you will never get the full effect of the beautiful focus piece of your fabric. So try to pick fabrics that fit in the space. Now, one of the things that you could do in order to make sure that you have a really nice, now this one I haven't folded because I wanted to show you how to do that. But one of the things you could do to make sure that you have a really nice idea of what your quilt's going to look like, or what your fabric's going to look like in a quilt, is I have some index cards, I'll show them to you after, that have different size holes in them. Now if I'm looking for a fabric that's going to be in a piece that's about 1 inch square, I have a little inch square hole. I have one that has like a rectangle of 1/4 of an inch by 4 inches, something like that. And I take these various cards with me and I look at my fabric through the card. And it gives me an idea of what the fabric's going to look like when it's cut down to the size that it's going to be. And that's really kind of an important thing. People don't really think about that too much. They worry about color. Is this color going to go with that color? Is this going to match that? And that's all important. But it's also important to know what the fabric's going to look like when it's cut down. Because some fabrics, frankly, in their big state, you might look at them and go, oh, I don't like that. But when it's cut into a little piece, it pops and it's beautiful. And some fabrics are gorgeous in their big piece, but when you cut them down, they just don't have that wow anymore. So now I have this piece here that I don't know if you can see all of this. Unfortunately, I don't have a cameraman to move things around. Now this piece, I'm not sure really where the center is. So what I have to do is I got to kind of hang it. I cannot assume that where it was cut is where the fabric actually lies. So when I'll move this out of the way, and when I lie this down here and I put my two ends together, my two salvaged ends, what I have to do is move them until the fabric is hanging correctly with no folds, no pulls, and no tension. And once the fabric is hanging beautifully, no folds, no pulls, no tension, and I see that the grain is nice and flat, then I know that this fabric is now just right. There's no pulls, nothing going on in this fabric.